Hi, I'm Tanya Smith.
And I'm Scott Smith.
Welcome to the Turpentine Creek Podcast.
Basically, this is Sugar Bear in the trailer that she was rescued in, and what we're trying to do is move her down to a habitat. She's one of the fortunate animals here at Turpentine Creek that gets to come be in quarantine after she arrived, but gets to go directly into a habitat and not into the compound area because we had a space down there. She's been in quarantine for a few weeks now. The vets came out and took a look at her, and everything seems great. And so we are trying to load her into our transfer trailer for her drive down to the habitat area. So now she's stubborn in the trailer and will not move. Strawberries, no. Even the water hose, no. She decided it's 95 degrees out and it kind of feels good. And then Coda's come up a few times and made it the threatening noise, just a bear warning noise. And since he smelled her and realized it's a girl, now he walked away and is totally being respectful and giving her a space. And then Sugar unloads, decides she's had enough of us telling her to do it, and does not seem stressed one bit. She's making all of her threatening noises and kind of checking everything out. She looks out into the habitat, sees how great it's going to be, checks out the den. We let Coda back in and wanted to see if there's going to be any problems on the inside of the lockdown with the wall. That would be their first greeting in there. And she makes threatening noises and Coda just says, okay, I'm not coming over there. So it looks like everything's going to work out perfect, and she's already bossing them around, and they'll get to share this habitat every other day.
Hi, I'm Jeff Griffin. This is Lieutenant Griffin. This is my wife. We're from Lake Ozark, Missouri, and we're wondering if tigers and lions can live together and get along.
Hi, I'm Lori, one of the staff zoologists here at the refuge. And the question of the week today was asking about lions and tigers living together. Now, this is a pretty good question. In the wild, of course, lions and tigers don't naturally live in the same areas. Lions primarily from Africa, tigers from Asia and Russia, so they would never overlap habitats. They would never live together in the wild. But here in captivity at places like Turpentine Creek, we do have several groupings of lions and tigers that do live together. It's not always a guarantee they're going to get along, but generally when we do get groupings like this, it's because they were housed together when they were young, were raised together, and they don't know that they're not supposed to necessarily get along. In this situation behind us, we have two lions, Wyoming and Lucci, and TJ is our tiger who's wandered off somewhere into the habitat. And they were rescued as sort of juvenile cats. They were about a year to 2 years old when we rescued them. We're already housed together, so they got along great, so we left them together. Now, in any situation where you have two different species living together, there is a chance of crossbreeding. In this case, it's not going to happen because all three cats are male, so you're obviously not going to have breeding in that circumstance. But there is things called ligers, which are a male lion and a female tiger that have been bred together to create a crossbreed called a liger, and tigons as well, which are female lion and a male tiger bred together. These things do happen basically in captivity. We used to have a liger, Jade, who has been here for a lot of times. A lot of people may know about Jade, and we still have lots of pictures of him and stuff around because he was a pretty famous cat out here. He was a liger. His dad was a lion and his mom was a tiger. We rescued him as a full-grown adult. We don't know who the parents were. And he was an amazing cat. He was huge. He was very, very large. And was kind of, like I said, kind of a famous cat here at the refuge. Unfortunately, usually when ligers are bred, they're basically bred to be put on display because they're kind of a freak of nature. It's something people like to see, and they're really just bred to be put in a cage or put in a circus, things like that. So it's really not something that here at the refuge that we really agree with people doing. Of course, you know, like Jade being a rescue, we're always going to care for any of the animals we get here. But for people just to be trying to breed animals just so they could have them on display really isn't a great way to go. And like I mentioned earlier, because there never would cross paths in the wild, it's not a normal breeding. You're breeding two different species, so they tend to have a lot of health issues as well that can cause a lot of problems in their life. So it's really not something that's the best thing to do.
Hey everybody, this week's cat of the week is Ringo. He's a 6-year-old Bengal tiger. We got him from Springfield, Missouri. The guy who had him at his house for a pet when we first brought him to us, he was only 40 pounds, and he was living in his garage back in 2003. And Ringo had been with him since he was just a tiny baby. A guy was in town taking pictures with tiger cubs. Well, the guy who had him and was taking pictures with him had a family emergency and left him with this couple that had never even taken care of a baby tiger before. And they left him with him, and he flew back to California for a family emergency and said he would be back in a week, and he never came back. The couple that had Ringo were just like any normal people. They had to go to work every day, so they would put Ringo in a huge pet carrier, the great big dog kennel size, and they would put him in there as they went to work. Well, they had to drive to work, go to work, and come home, so for at least 8 hours a day he was in a pet carrier. And if you look at the tip of his nose today, you can see the scar on his face. When he first arrived at the refuge, his whole face or his whole muzzle was all bloody and scarred up, and because he had been kept in a dairy kennel for long periods of time throughout the day. He lives in a pretty big cage here, but just like all the cats at the refuge, he needs a habitat too. So support Turpentine Creek by going to www.turpentinecreek.org.
Really? Good job. You got him. You got him. Good boy.